Hello, welcome everyone to reporting your unclaimed funds. We are happy to be here today to share with you all the information about reporting your unclaimed funds and why it's important. Today we have Amy Schellhamer, our finance manager, George Gladden, our compliance manager, and Kelly Lister, our legal counsel for the division. Welcome everyone. I am Susie Wagner, the outreach supervisor. Let's get started.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We often get a question right off of the bat. How much money are we holding? And I'm very pleased to let you know that we're holding $4.8 billion in unclaimed funds. And we want to pay all that out. We want to make sure that we reunite the people, the owners, with all that money. And last year we paid out 26,420 claims. And that was $149 million. So really, claiming your unclaimed funds is a three-step process, as we'll see on the next slide. So the first thing to do is to go to our website, unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. Then search for your name, search for your business name, family, friends, and if you happen to find that there are unclaimed funds out there, you can download your claim form to start your claim. Then you just have to get your documentation together. And usually it's a form of ID and something showing that you're connected with those funds, and you'll need to fill out a W-9 form. And then the third step, and the most important step, is to submit that documentation to us, and then we'll review it. And then we will, once it's approved, send you your funds. So today, we're going to talk about, we're going to introduce you to unclaimed funds. We're going to talk about the 3 easy steps to reporting, reporting issues and best practices, reporting deadlines, exemptions to reporting, filing an extension, compliance audits, record retention, voluntary compliance agreements, and we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. And if you do have any questions along the way, you have access to the question and answer feature. It's the button at the top of your screen, probably. It says Q&A. Just click in there, type in your question, and we will answer as many of those as we can at the end. And now I'll turn it over to our Division Legal Counsel, Kelly Lister.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Kelly Lister, and I'm an attorney with the Department of Commerce. I represent the Division of Unclaimed Funds. It's truly a pleasure to speak with you today. As an initial matter, you'll see on the screen to hear what are unclaimed funds. There's a statutory definition for unclaimed funds that you're going to find in the slide before you. It is any monies, rights to monies, or intangible property that's described with greater particularity in Revised Code Section 169.2 of the Revised Code, when, as shown by the records of the holder, the person to whom the funds were entrusted, the owner has not within required periods of dormancy exercised any owner-generated activity. Common examples of unclaimed funds include bank accounts, life insurance policies, IRA accounts, security deposits. These are all common examples of funds that are routinely reported to the Division of Unclaimed Funds. How does a property become dormant? It becomes dormant when the owner fails to engage in any owner-generated activity for a specified period of time. Now, the period of time for dormancy varies from property type to property type. By way of example, if someone receives payment on their wages for work that they've performed, there's a relatively short period of time in which you would expect that person's going to negotiate payment. However, if it is a Christmas club account or a traveler's check, there might be years that pass before you would reasonably expect the owner might do anything with that instrument, with that account. And so for that reason, there are differing periods of dormancy based on the property type before those funds properly would become reportable as unclaimed funds. Examples of owner-generated activity would include increasing, decreasing, or adjusting the fund balance, the account balance, paying premiums, or otherwise encumbering the funds on deposit, receiving a payment, for instance, into a financial account, or drafting a check, or otherwise logging onto the account to check account balances. These would all constitute owner-generated activity. Obviously, corresponding with the holder, whether it be a financial institution or a landlord or a business partner, whether that be via email or in writing, would constitute owner-generated activity. There's a general catch-all in our definition here in the state of Ohio that owner-generated activity includes a number of enumerated forms of conduct and any otherwise acting otherwise to indicate an interest or knowledge of the funds. And so for many reasons, this definition is changing as the way in which we do business, the way in which we engage in commerce in the state of Ohio changes. Next slide, please. So we are here today to explain the process by which to report and remit dormant funds to the Division of Unclaimed Funds. Initially, I want to provide some context to unclaimed funds law in the state of Ohio. Unclaimed funds law is found within all 50 states. It is primarily state law with a few limited exceptions. Federal courts have decided where to report funds, where holders, persons who are holding funds in which they have no ownership interest, where they are to report those funds when there are potentially competing state claims to those funds. Ohio Unclaimed Funds Law was first enacted in December of 1967, so it has been with us for quite some time, over 50 years. In 2009, the Ohio Supreme Court made a historic decision, at least for those of us in unclaimed funds law, in Sog v. Zers. It's a decision that resulted in the state of Ohio paying interest on all unclaimed funds reported to it. From the time that the Department of Commerce accepts the report and remission of unclaimed funds up until the time they pay it out to the client, any interest that accrues on those funds while in the custody of Commerce are paid out to the claimant. That is not true in all 50 states, and that differentiates Ohio from many other states. There are two important reporting deadlines for unclaimed funds. The first is for the majority of holders, and that is November 1st of each year. And that is for properties that were dormant as of the end of the fiscal year, which was be June 30 of that same year. For life insurance companies, there's a different reporting deadline, and that's May 1st, and that is for all properties that were dormant as of December 31 of the prior year. Chapter 169 is administered by the Ohio Department of Commerce, and more particularly by the Division of Unclaimed Funds, and the current director of the Department of Commerce is Cheryl Maxfield. Our laws, the Ohio Unclaimed Funds laws in Chapter 169, as I said, but our corresponding administrative rules are found in Chapter 1310, subsection 10 of the Ohio Administrative Code. I want to reiterate, Commerce is the fiduciary of these funds. These funds never become the property of Commerce. They do not escheat to the state, but rather we serve as a fiduciary of the funds responsible for reuniting them with their rightful owners. We advertise annually in all 88 Ohio counties in newspapers of general circulation to advise on funds reported to owners with the last known address in each of those respective counties. Next slide, please. Records retention. There is an obligation on all holders, all those individuals and entities holding funds in which they have no ownership interest, to maintain records of those funds that they're holding in trust for 5 years beyond the applicable period of dormancy. And as I stated earlier, there could be some funds for which there's a 1-year period of dormancy. There could be others for which there's a 5-year period of dormancy. That is all spelled out by statute. And for those properties, you hold records for 5 years beyond the applicable period of dormancy. Examples of the types of records that would be expected to be maintained would be records which indicate the last date of owner-generated activity, copies of any unclaimed funds that you report, commonly referred to as forms OUF 1 and 2, all signed and returned notices of unclaimed funds, which are a shorthand designation for those. For our purposes, it's OUF 8 forms. They are sent by the holder to the reported owner prior to the report and remission of those funds to the division as unclaimed funds. Ohio law requires that each holder make one last-ditch effort to reach out to the owner at their last known address before reporting and remitting the funds to the Division of Unclaimed Funds. That makes complete sense, just on a one, to comply with statute, but second, more importantly, just as a matter of common sense. It makes no sense for the holder, for the commerce, or for the owner to go through the futility of reporting funds that could be avoided if they just made one last ditch attempt to notify the owner, if you fail to respond, we are going to report and remit these funds over to the custody of the Department of Commerce. If the owner responds, that then tolls the period of dormancy. Then it's up to the owner whether they recover the funds from the holder or whether the holder continues to hold those funds pending additional activity from the owner. Additionally, retained records should include aggregate detail, the undeliverable mail that we just talked about that you're going to engage, that if you continue to engage in with the owner about updated correspondences regarding the funds that you're holding, account activity, notices, for instance, if you're a security holder, that they have a proxy vote that they're supposed to make. If those are received back, you want to retain evidence of the fact that you reached out to the owner and they have been non-responsive, or that address has not been successful in reaching the reported owner, as well as all supporting research and documentation that you use to prepare your unclaimed funds reports, which are submitted annually to the Department of Commerce. Next slide, please.
All right. Everything you need to know about reporting. Last year, we received 90,790 reports. So we've received a lot of reports. So I know some of you tend to ask us, did we get your report? It might take us a while to get to it, but we will get to them. And then we'll be able to reply to you. But in that time, it's $528 million that we received last fiscal year. So it's a lot of reports coming through our system, as well as a lot of funds and money. And to handle that, next slide, please. We did a system upgrade. This is the big thing that we've been waiting for. I'm sure you've been waiting for it as well. We have listened to you. We understand the pain that you have had with the Ohio Business Gateway. Unlike the Gateway, we don't have a requirement to get access. We don't have that where you have to get permission to join the account. You can actually just file the report. It is at unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. It's very easy to find. We allow you to key in the report manually. This prevents some keying errors on our part as well. That is why we're going towards paperless reporting. We're trying not to be secure with the data. So therefore, you would, in your own office, be able to key in your report without having to send it to us. It's very secure that way. We don't have to miskey somebody's phone or name, because you know those people more than we do. So it prevents a lot of these errors from happening, which is a really good thing to have. Also, you can upload your NAPA file there directly. It provides that functionality. Then when you're done with that, you can still pay through a website. Again, these are the things that we had the benefits that we pulled from the Ohio Business Gateway, which was paying online and being able to submit something uploaded, which was great. But there still was a lot of clicks to filing a none report on even the Ohio Business Gateway. And that's something we try to eliminate with this as well. Now, we do ask for some business information. Believe me, this is not to be nosy. We just need to be able to contact you if there's a question on it, or anything on the file. The file will, unlike the Gateway, the file is actually going to be screened through this system. So if there's an error on the file, it will be rejected and you'll be told about it. The Business Gateway doesn't screen it. So even if you filed on the Business Gateway and you like that platform, that's totally fine with me. If you still want to use that, that's still available. However, it doesn't screen your file. So if it gets to us and there's a problem with the file, it can still be rejected. So be prepared for that. That's the nice part about our system that we have now. It will screen the file to see if there's any errors, and it will even tell you. So you won't go any further. We have instructional videos. We put them out there. They are actually under if you go to report funds and hit the drop down, there's forms and resources. And then you'll see the videos that you can click on and watch whenever you're doing, and pause and go back and watch them as many times as you want to. That's the advantage we have for that. We didn't have videos that were being uploaded on a gateway. We used to have them when they first started. Suddenly they got lost. I don't know where they went to, but we don't maintain the gateway. We do contract with a company to do this system. So we have a lot more control over this than we do over the business gateway. So next slide, please. Big thing. As I told you, we want to get away from seeing errors on reports, or the reports getting lost, or the pages getting lost, or the detail not being able to be seen. So as of July 1st, we are no longer accepting the paper reports. You're able to key the report manually in our new system directly on the website. I do want to tell you have 30 days to key that report on the system. You'll be given a specific key only you will have once you log in and create your manual report, and only you will have it. Our IT department won't have it. I won't have it. No one else will have it. So if you lose that, you'll have to start all over. But this allows you to have more security over what you're reporting to us, which is a great feature that I like. So, but it's just print it off, keep it. It's good for 30 days. As I was discussing with a coworker of mine, if you start a report and you think you're done, that's fine. Go ahead and close out the report. You can do an additional report on our system. You can add another report. You don't have to have just one report for the same fiscal year. So we do take the supplemental reports. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to George for unclaimed reporting.
All right. So reporting, it's a 3-step process, very similar to the claims process. We try to keep it as simple as we can. All businesses, entities, anyone doing business in Ohio, organized in Ohio, are required to file a report with the Ohio Division of Unclaimed Funds annually. Even if you have no unclaimed funds to report, like Kelly mentioned, you're required to file what we call a negative or a none report. So the first step is to review your own records for any kinds of unclaimed funds, anything that might be dormant. And so dormant means that it's the maximum amount of time that you can hold those funds or that type of unclaimed fund without any owner-generated activity before they become dormant and potentially reportable. So examples would be a payroll check. If it goes uncashed for a year, there's a 1-year dormancy on that. A bank account, say it's a checking account. If there's been no activity for 5 years, then it would be dormant. So you identify any dormant accounts. And we often get the question, does that mean I have to wait for the full dormancy period before I can report it? No, actually, you can report early so long as you follow the due diligence mailing guidelines, and I'll cover those with you. And if you discover that you have no unclaimed funds, again, you're required to file a negative or a none report, and that's outlined in Ohio Administrative Code 130110-3-03B. Once you report those funds to us, we never take ownership of the funds. Like Kelly mentioned, we're one of 5 custodial states, so we will keep that money indefinitely until the owner or the owners come to claim that money. But once you report that money to us and submit your report and your funds, you're relieved from any liability, and that's given under Ohio Revised Code 169.07. So I like to tell people it becomes our headache and not yours. And if you don't file, we often get the question, well, what about penalties and interest? Well, it is written into the Ohio Revised Code that the Ohio Division of Unclaimed Funds may assess penalties and interests for not filing, and I'll touch on that a little bit later too. So as I mentioned on the next slide, it's a 3-step process. So that first step is to go through and determine if you have any dormant funds. The second step is to do the due diligence mailing, where you send out that Notice of Unclaimed Funds Form OUF8 that you heard Kelly mention. And lastly, the third step is to submit the report and submit the payment for those funds that you're remitting to the state. So let's take a look at step one. All right, so like I mentioned, all businesses are required to file annually with two exceptions: 501c3 hospitals, so not-for-profit hospitals, and political subdivisions. All other not-for-profits, all other entities located in Ohio or doing business in Ohio are required to report to us annually. So I mentioned some of those examples. Other examples of dormant funds might be patient credits. So you're going to want to take a look at your outstanding checklists, take a look at your aging of accounts receivable reports or patient credit reports. There are lots of different kinds of unclaimed funds. So check out our website, unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. Go to that section that Amy mentioned, go into report funds, reporting forms and resources, and there are all kinds of resources there to help you along with this process. Once you identify those dormant accounts, you're required to do a due diligence mailing, and it's only required for those items that are $50 or more. Anything less than $50, you're not required to do the due diligence mailing, but you are required to report those to us. There's no minimum amount for reporting. So the only time the dollar amount comes into play, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's for wages and payroll. Everything else, even if it's a penny, once it becomes dormant, would be reportable to the Division of Unclaimed Funds. But you're only required to do the mailing for $50 or more. So you send out a notice of unclaimed funds. We provide form OUF8. You fill out the top of the form, the relevant parts in the middle. Make sure you put your return address and information at the bottom. If that information, if it comes to us, there's not much that we can do with that. It needs to go to you. Anything between $50 and up to $1,000, you can send that out first class mail. Anything $1,000 or more, you're required to send it out certified mail with a return receipt requested, and you can charge up to $20 against the account to pay for the actual cost of the certified mailing for those items over $1,000. Make sure you send a self-addressed stamped envelope along with that, because you're going to want to make sure that the owner of the money signs that form and returns it to you. And then you're required to give them 30 days to do that. If they sign it and return it to you, they're stating that they understand that they have money with your company or firm, and at that point, you can go ahead and issue a replacement check, or you can keep the money on account for up to 3 more years. In other words, it's not unclaimed. It's not reportable. If they don't sign it and return it to you after 30 days, those items become reportable. And so Amy's going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide.
Okay, you've already done your due diligence letter. And honestly, the reason we require this is so they can get it a lot faster from you than from us. Because as I said, we get all of those reports and it takes a while to get in the system, and then they still have to prove that they can collect it. So do what you can to get it back to them. But if you've determined that it really does belong to us, or it should come to us, submit the holder report. When you get to the new system, this is what you will see when you go to submit a holder report. It's exactly like this. If you have an uploaded NAPA file in a TXT or HRS format, you can upload your report. The system will scan through to see if there's any errors, and if there aren't, it will accept it. It's not looking for, it's basically looking for, is it in the column? Does it meet the column requirements? Do I have the required columns completed? So that's what's important about that. That's why it will go through that. If you don't have that NAPA software to convert it, and you can enter your manual report, I need to create a report. Don't be intimidated by the fact I told you have 30 days to complete it. Some people just get interrupted. Say you started on the morning of the one day and you're like, oh, I need to get this in. Oh, no, I don't have time. I got to go somewhere else. Don't worry. You can come back to it. That's the nice part about that. Again, it'll give you a key. If you lose the key, start another one. That one will go away after 30 days. It will fall off. We don't retain it. It won't come to us. The other part is to submit the negative report. I don't have anything to report. This is so easy compared. I just I'm so glad to see this compared to what we have with the paper. The amount of time you would have spent filling out the paper, you can have this done and don't even have to mail it. And then there's the submit a payment report, or submit a payment for the report. We still take ACH debit. So if your financial institution requires a debit blocker on it, we do have a debit blocker ID number, which is the same that we use for the Ohio Business Gateway. I see about getting that posted so they make sure, but I believe it pops up on the one screen. I'll confirm that. But its debit blocker is 1311409-347. If you need it, you can always call it for us for it, but I believe it's also on the information given out. Submit the payment. You can buy the credit cards. We take American Express, Visa, and MasterCard. So the normal ones. So we do not take wires and we do not do ACH credit. We're not taking, and we don't keep track of account numbers. If you want to ask us what account number I used, we don't track that. We don't keep it. More secure for you and it's more secure for us at the same time. Okay. Next time. Okay. So when you go to do your report, there are certain information that we're asking you for. Again, it's not to be nosy, so we can actually contact you and also put the report under the correct person. Well, you'll see the asterisks beside the column, the fields that we do absolutely need. If you want to complete the rest of the fields, please feel free to do so. That just gives us more information on you, on the holder that's reporting this. You'll see over to, so that's on the left, on the left side. And then there's the report information. What year are you filing for? Currently, we're taking 2024. 2025 begins July 1st. But we do have some people filing 2025s because the business is closed before we reach that. So they're able to file it early for that reason. You can choose whether it's a negative or non-report. And then of course, if it's not a negative or non-report, you can use the drop down to select whether it's a supplemental report, an audit report. Most of them are annual report. That's why it's usually populated first. You'll put in the dollar amount of your report and you can select what you're going to submit the funds by. Are you held to this? No. I tell you that because some people have put that they're going to pay online and they've decided to send a check or vice versa. That's fine. Even if you put it this, it gives us an idea, but you're not going to be held to if you're going to submit the funds via credit card and you choose to do an ACH debit, because that's done on the other piece, the submit a payment portal. So you're not going to be held to it, but it gives us an idea, as I said. Next slide, please. Okay. So this gives you an idea of what the screens will give you. So you can submit the payment by electronic, ACH debit, or credit card. If you don't want to submit by those, then you can also mail the check. Mail the check to Unclaimed Funds, 77 South High Street, 20th floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Please send in, if you have a successful confirmation, send us a copy of that with us. It helps us to easily match up the payment. And as I said, wires, we are not accepting wires. We do not give out our business account information. So once you've submitted your payment, you've chosen that, you will get the successful submission that you submit. Okay, reporting issues. We still get problems with the report title that was uploaded or keyed in does not match the check or the ACH or the charge. Please make sure they match. Can you do 2 payments on one report? Absolutely, yes. But we need to know that it goes to the one report. So however you can do that, let us know. We've had that before where they've parceled out the payment on a report. I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, that's totally fine. If you want to do that, we just need to know what it goes to. Also, the full detail is missing of the owner. Give us as much information as you can. We want to give these funds back to the correct owner, We want to make sure it gets there. And if you have that information, that's the best way to us to match them up to, because it's amazing with as many people in the world there is. A lot of people have the same name. You wouldn't know it. I have somebody with the same name that lives not far from where I grew up. So I didn't even know that. Not related. company. The FEIN number is missing. You'll see that we require it. So I don't know if you can miss that. I think we require it now. So I don't expect this to be a problem after we do away with the paper, but we'll see. Owner detail not in the proper column. We often get that. They'll put the last name in the first name field, first name in the last name field. We do have it where you can do a fuzzy search for the person, but it's not always accurate. So we might miss that. They'll be able to collect it. And it's amazing how many people have what sounds like the first name really is their last name. But if you know it, since you did business with them, please make sure it's in the proper column. Faxes and paper reports won't be accepted. In fact, we don't take faxes now. You'll see that it's not on any of our forms anymore. We do not take them. Reports are uploaded in a few places. We'll get that. They'll put them on the Ohio Business Gateway, and then they'll turn around and submit it through our website. To us, that's two separate reports. We're trying to do away with any duplicates so that we're not turning around and saying, okay, we need the money for this report. No. The payment, okay. Something we discovered when we did this new website was if you submit it on the website, then you can pay on that website. But if you submit it on the gateway and then you don't pay it on the gateway and then you want to pay it on our website, they won't look each other up. The website will actually search for your report if you if you submit it on the website and you want to pay on the website, it will look for the proper report. But if you submit it on the gateway or send it to us right now, since we still take paper, it won't take it. It won't allow it. So I want you to be cautious of that. It wasn't set up that way. And since we're going paperless anyway, we knew it's just a matter of a couple of months. I just wanted to be aware of that. Lag time between submission of the report and the payment of the report. A complete report is due by November 1st. So it's not complete if you don't pay it and submit it. I've had people that submit the detail and don't pay until March. Did you file an extension? Because really, it's not complete until March. Just wanted you to be aware of that too. So utilize the extension. Next slide, please. Other reporting issues. We have checks made payable to somebody else. They'll be made to the Department of Taxation. We cannot cash that. It's made payable to the owner. We can't cash those either. So you'll see that it gets returned to you. And again, that delays you having a complete report. Report email going to an unmonitored inactive email. The reason we ask for an email isn't just because we want to have fun and have people's email addresses. That's not why we have it. We have it so we can contact you should there be a problem on that report. That's the reason. Full year not given on birth dates. It needs to be a complete year. All right, we already mentioned check being to a different business. Trying to upload a non-NAPA file. We only accept TXT files and HRS profiles. So if you have a different file with PDFs, we don't take. If you convert a PDF over to a TXT and upload it on Ohio Business Gateway, that does not make it a correct NAPA file. It just makes it a TXT of a PDF. So it's quite possible that if you upload it over at the Ohio Business Gateway, like I told you, that it doesn't look at the file to make sure it's in its proper NAPA file and just sends it to us, that file is going to end up being rejected, because when we put it through the system, it's going to register that it's not in the NAPA file. It's not in the NAPA format. Just letting you be aware of that. So if you're trying to look for your report, you said I submitted on the Ohio Business Gateway, but I still don't see my property on the system, could be because that file is not able to go into our new system. Not how it is. Revisions to recent report. Honestly, just take your time. File for the extension. It doesn't cost you anything to file the extension. If you're in doubt that you have a complete report, don't rush through it. We have all the way extended up to March 1st. So that gives you another 120 days to file, get your report correct. So utilize it. I understand mistakes happen, but don't go through that. It's more problem for you and for us. So if you do your best report when you're ready for it, great. Okay. All right. The reporting deadlines. I know Kelly has mentioned this before. The reporting deadlines, the majority, the non-life insurance companies, their deadline is November 1st, but it's for items dormant as of June 30th of that year. So we're going to come up to 2025. It's items dormant as of June 30th of 2025, and the reporting deadline is November 1st. You will have the option to extend it if you find that you need that, but that's the reporting deadline for non-life insurance. Insurance companies, their deadline is the following May 1st because it's as items dormant as of December 31st. So they have until May 1st of 2026 to file their 2025 unclaimed fund report. Right. And George will talk to you about extensions.
All right. Thank you, Amy. So you can request an extension of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and up to 120 days. And as long as we get it by the reporting deadline and you file that extension through our website online, you're going to be approved for that extension. So to find that page, you go to unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov and then go to report funds and then click on file an extension. And then all you have to do is fill out the electronic form, very similar to the reporting forms that you've seen, and then send that in. You can only request one extension per year though. And so if you're not sure if you need an extension or for how long, we recommend that you request an extension of 120 days. Extension for the 2025 reporting year for the November 1st deadline, we'll start accepting those after July 1st. And then right now, we're still accepting extensions for the 2024 reporting year for life insurance companies for the May 1st deadline. So we also often get questions about, well, what happens if we don't file? One of the potential consequences is that you may be selected for an audit, and Ohio Revised Code 169.03, Section G, Section 1 grants us the authority to do that. Generally, we select audits at random, but it's also written into our law that if we get a consumer complaint, then we may go and investigate that. So if you receive a letter advising you that you've been selected for an audit, it's not voluntary. It's an involuntary audit, and you have to go through it. One of our field auditors or contract auditors would contact you and then let you know what the next steps are. Other potential consequences is that you may be assessed fines and penalties, and it's written into our law that we may assess up to $500 per day plus interest on those unclaimed funds that you should have filed for each day that you have not filed that unclaimed fund report. So you can imagine that money can rack up pretty quickly. However, we prefer to work with companies and educate them on the reporting requirements and rather than punish companies. So we would much rather work with you on that. And I sense Kelly has something she'd like to add.
Yes, this is a great program that the division administers, a voluntary compliance agreement, which allows holders to bring themselves in over multiple reporting periods in one document, a voluntary compliance agreement. It's something that you compose. The holder performs their own self-audit, identifies funds that they're holding in which they have no ownership interest. And this is a efficient, both time and manpower efficient way to bring yourself into full compliance with Ohio's unclaimed funds law. Obviously, as you can see from the screen, one of the primary qualifications to participate in the program is that you cannot be currently under audit. Obviously, once you're noticed for audit, that forecloses your ability to elect to participate in the voluntary compliance agreement. Otherwise, it's generally available to all holders in the state of Ohio as an efficient and easy way to bring themselves into compliance with our law. It is also conditioned upon you agreeing that going forward, you are going to engage in that annual review of your books and records to verify whether you are holding unclaimed funds. And if you're not, then simply file a quick and easy non-report online or submit a sum report identifying those funds that you've located. The incentive to do this, one, is to stand right by your customers and business partners. Obviously, it doesn't serve any holder's purposes to go through the time and expense of maintaining records that do not belong to them and don't generate any benefit for them. And also, upon the report and remission through the voluntary compliance agreement, you will be held harmless for any further record keeping for those funds and from any liabilities arising from the report of those funds to the division. So it's a great program, and that's why I kind of had to pop in and offer my 2 cents with respect to the VCA program.
Kelly. So as you can see, last year we had 31 companies that participated, and they reported almost $1.3 million to us. And as Kelly said, it's the quickest and easiest way for you to come into compliance, because many of you, this might be the first time you've heard about unclaimed funds, or the first time that you've learned that you've had to report on a yearly basis. So you might have some unclaimed funds over the past several years to report. To participate in the program, again, go to our website, unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov, go to report funds, and go to the section for the voluntary compliance agreement. Download the agreement, fill it out. You have to do the due diligence mailing prior to submitting the agreement, and then send that to unfdcompliance@com.ohio.gov, and we'll have that for you at the end. And then we will review it. And once it's fully signed, you have 60 days to report those funds to us. And it's like I said, the easiest, quickest way to come into compliance. All right. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that wages and payroll under $50 were exempt from reporting. So another question we get, well, what else is exempted from reporting? Gift cards are exempted. So retail specific gift cards. We're only interested in Ohio unclaimed funds. So those states have their own divisions, departments of unclaimed funds. So you should report to the other state. If you do, however, end up reporting to us, we have a reciprocal reporting program where we will send that money to the other state. But unclaimed funds should be reported to the state of the last known address of the owner of the funds. If you don't know the last known address, then you may report to the state of incorporation, unless there are certain transactions such as cashier's checks or money orders. And lastly, there's a business-to-business exemption, and so wholesale trade of tangible goods and services are exempted from being reported to us as unclaimed funds. For example, if you one of your vendors, if you issue a check to them and they don't cash it for 3 years, that would fall under that business-to-business exemption. However, if you have a business that is a client of yours, say, for instance, say you're an attorney and you are acting as a fiduciary, and so you're acting on behalf of your client, and so you pay money to somebody that your client owes, that does not fall under that exemption. So if you have questions, you can reach out to our division and we can help you through that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about public records requests and your record retention requirements. Whenever we conduct an audit, we can request 5 years of records plus the relevant dormancy period. So typically that's going to be 8 years worth of records. So you're required to keep those records available if we ever need to come and audit. You're also required to keep records that are for your last 5 years worth of unclaimed funds reports. But if you do happen to have a public records request, Kelly is the person to reach out to.
As a government agency, we are obligated to comply with Revised Code Section 149.43, which is the body of Ohio Unclaimed Funds, of Ohio Public Records law here. It's very, very broadly written in the state of Ohio to provide the public with access to the records of the government agencies. Records can be formed in a variety of formats that are created, received by, or within the jurisdiction or authority of the Division of Unclaimed Funds. So they're documents that document our organization, our functions, our operations, or other activities of the agency. That said, we have to produce records, whether they be in a request for production that's made orally or in writing, and we do that promptly following a review of our records. As a general matter, we redact all CPI, like Social Security, financial account numbers, FEIN numbers, driver's license numbers. Those are exemptions from the statute, which we have authority to redact from production, and we do. I can assure you, we diligently review the documents before we produce them, following a request for production. Also, I want you to appreciate, for holders that are worried about the records that are audited or that they share with the division, there is a provision within Ohio Unclaimed Funds law that audit work papers are confidential and they shall not be disclosed except when absolutely required. And that's at the discretion of the director when necessary for the proper administration of Chapter 169. So there is protection afforded to holder records that are subject to an audit. And for the simple reason that we don't want to discourage holders from sharing the records that they have that document dormant funds that they're holding for their customers.
Right. So we just gave you a lot of information pretty quickly. I know there are a lot of questions that you've been putting in the Q&A. Susie, do we have any questions we
Yes.
can answer?
Yes, we do. I'll start with the first one that came in. Is this the last known address that you reach out to, only the address on record when the funds were reported, or is there any effort to find a more current address of the owner?
So you're only required to use the last known address. If you happen to take the next steps, you may, but you don't have to make an exhaustive search for the last known address. Really, the only time that comes into play is with your due diligence mailing. If you can confirm that your last known address is a bad address by showing that you've reached out with a first-class notice and they haven't responded, or if it comes back undeliverable, and if you've just made a cursory record search and you can't confirm the last known address, then you're relieved of the due diligence mailing requirement. But really, you're not required to hire a private investigator or to spend a lot of money to find that last known address.
Okay. Kelly, I think this one is for you. What about trust accounts at law firms? How long must the funds be held?
Those are IOLTA accounts, and IOLTA accounts, there's a special category of unclaimed funds. It's called attorney unclaimed funds, which was recently enacted in April of 2021, which provides that likewise, once a law firm identifies that they have dormant IOLTA funds for which they are unable to they can't identify, or they are unable to reach out to those clients, they have an obligation to conduct due diligence and report and remit them to the division as unclaimed funds. The period of dormancy for attorney unclaimed funds in George, I'm going to say 3 years is the
Correct.
required period of dormancy for those funds. So it would be the last day. And I will want to also say this. As an attorney, you may have a relationship with a client that you may do real estate work for them. You may also represent them on probate matters. You may also represent them in traffic matters. Any account that you have with your client, you may have multiple accounts. If they're related in other, by social security number, name, activity on one account, whether you recently represented them by drafting a will, would then prevent a finding of dormancy on any related accounts for that same client. So just be aware of that when reviewing your books. Did I answer the question?
Yeah,
Susan?
I
Okay.
think so. Okay. Another question. I am an accountant that files this report for many clients. I see an email address is required to log in and file a report. Will I need to use client-specific emails? Great question.
No, you don't. You're the one who's going to be answering about that report, so use yours. This is one of the reasons we also like this website compared to the Ohio Business Gateway. You are able to do your multiple clients. So multiple times, put your name in, that's fine. Absolutely
So they
fine.
don't have to go through the process multiple times. They'll just enter their information in, file the reports that they need to file all at once. Sounds like.
No, I think you still have to put the business information in.
Okay.
So it's, I can't say it's that quick. It's not like a spreadsheet that quick. It would be lovely, but no, it's not built like that. But you can still utilize the same contact information, same email, and the same phone number on all the ones that you're filing, because you're going to have a different FEIN for the company. You're going to have a different name for the business of the company. So you can still go through the non-reports pretty quickly compared to the other way.
Okay. Can we still send the funds to the state via a cashier's check?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Just we do ask that you give us a copy of your successful upload, so we know where to look for it and what it goes to.
Are we supposed to use the form for due diligence, or can we use our own letter?
You can use your own letter as long as it has all of the information that's found on the form. It has to disclose that you would be required to report the money to the state or to the Division of Unclaimed Funds if it's not signed and returned within 30 days. Most important of which is to give them a place to sign and then that return envelope.
So if I could just add on to that, obviously you can, as George said, you can have your own letter that you draft to your customers, but it has to be substantially compliant with statutory requirements. And so it is very much recommended that you just adopt our OUF Form 8 as a model of the content of the letter that you send out to your customers, to your business partners, to ensure that you're compliant with those statutory requirements.
Okay, we're getting in more questions. Let's see.
Just as a reminder, we'll be sending out the slides and link for the recording of the webinar, and you'll be able to find it online as well.
Yes. Okay. Let's find a one that we haven't really touched upon. If our business is located in Ohio and last known address is Kentucky, do we report it on Ohio Unclaimed report?
You would report it to the state of last known address of the person to whom you owe the money. If you report it to the state of Ohio, we will reciprocally report to the state of last known address of the reported owner. There's a provision in Ohio law that specifically authorizes this and provides that if any funds are reported to us, which identify a last known owner address in a different state, that we will reciprocally report to that state.
And we do that about once a year for each state. We wait till most of the reports are already in before we do what's called reciprocity to those states.
So the quickest and best way to make sure the funds get back to the person who is entitled to them is to the report to the state of last known address.
Oh, I do want to say, I mentioned about payments that you can do multiple checks to just one report, but you can also pay multiple reports with one check or one remittance. You can do that.
Do you want to touch on certified letters required for $1,000 and over?
Or I can go over those requirements again. So for the due diligence mailing, for anything $1,000 or more, you're required to send out the notice of unclaimed funds with self-addressed stamped envelope by certified mail with a return receipt requested. And you can charge up to $20 against the account to pay for the actual cost of the certified mailing for those items $1,000 or more. If you do the certified mailing for everything, you can only charge that amount for those items over $1,000 or $1,000 or more. You can be relieved of that certified mailing requirement by showing that you have a bad address. And I mentioned how to do that earlier. So yeah, you have to show 2 out of the 3 conditions. One, you've sent them a first-class notice and they haven't responded after 30 days, and/or it's come back undeliverable, and/or you've done a search of the available public records and can't confirm the current address. That would relieve you of the certified mailing requirement, but otherwise you have to do the due diligence mailing.
Okay. Is information saved year to year once registered, like i.e. the bank account information for payment?
We do not save that. So I'm sorry, we do not save that. It's basically security on your part and ours. So once you key it in, that's why I won't know which, if it gets rejected, I can't tell you which account it came from.
And we have someone who files multiple clients, and they're asking, do I have to file a zero report every year? Yes. Yes, you do. It is required by law. Okay. Who can help with login issues?
If you're having difficulty with logging into the Ohio Business Gateway, you should reach out to the Ohio Business Gateway Help Desk. They're a separate department than us, and they handle that. Their phone number is 866-644-6468.
There is no log. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There is no login for our state website, which is one of the advantages that we have.
Mm-hmm. So how long should something be dormant before it's required to be reported?
Depends on the type of unclaimed fund. Most unclaimed funds have a dormancy period of 3 years. For example, refund checks, or well, some checks, they have a 1-year dormancy, like payroll and commission checks. Some checks have a 5-year dormancy, like cashier's checks. And it really depends on the type of unclaimed funds. So if you download our annual reporting guide, it has a list of different types of unclaimed funds with different dormancy periods.
You can find all of our resources on our website at unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov. And under reporting funds, you can click on forms and resources. That's also the location of our guides, our videos, our how-to videos. Let's see. So I thought I heard that if a vendor doesn't cash their check, we do not have to report that as unclaimed funds. Is that true?
That would typically fall under the business-to-business exemption. But the business-to-business exemption, it's probably the most challenging part of our law in that every case is specific, and it has to fall under very specific guidelines for it to fall under that business-to-business exemption. So it has to be as a result of like a purchase order that's been issued, and then there's an invoice that has to be issued, and then payment. So it's strictly for the wholesale trade of tangible goods and services. If you have specific questions about scenarios that you're wondering about, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information's there. But generally, checks that are issued to vendors fall under that business-to-business exemption, but it really depends on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, I'm going to ask about due diligence letters. Do they need to send a self-addressed return envelope with them, and can they be emailed?
Yes, they can. You are required to send the self-addressed stamped envelope. You can email that information to the owner, but our statute is very specific in that it requires the letters to be mailed. So until we update that rule or the statute, then you are still required to do the mailing.
Okay. That's several on that. We are a title company and hold earnest money in escrow. How does that work as far as ownership, maybe being more than one person?
So whenever there's earnest money, as you mentioned, there's more than one interested party, and whenever it becomes dormant, you do a due diligence mailing to each of the parties. If at least one of the interested parties signs that and returns it to you, then it's not unclaimed. And then you hold it until you can get authorization from all the parties on how to disperse that money. If none of the interested parties sign the due diligence mailing and return it to you, then it's reportable. And you report that with multiple owners.
Okay. This is a great question. If there's multiple uncashed paychecks all under $50, do I add the checks together to reach the $50, or is it per check?
It's typically per check.
Okay. What are the requirements for a negative unclaimed funds report?
So to file a negative or a none report, you will have had to made a search of your financial records and determine that you have nothing dormant or anything dormant. You've done the due diligence mailing and they've signed that unclaimed funds form and returned it to you. So in other words, you have nothing to report. So then you go to our website at unclaimedfunds.ohio.gov, go to submit a report, submit a negative report, fill in all of the required information, and then submit. And then your reporting requirement is complete for that year.
Okay, we are coming close on time for the webinar. We will answer your questions that you've posted in a Q&A, and also post those on our website and in an email that we'll send out along with the slides and along with a webinar replay. As always, you can reach us at the contact information that is on your screen. We thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned how to report your unclaimed funds. Bye-bye.